Tolls are dead in Connecticut for now. Straight ahead on Face the State, what happened and what's next. We'll discuss with House Republican leader Themis Klarides and Democratic State Representative Roland Lamar. Also, State Senators Christine Cohen, a Democrat, and Kevin Kelly, a Republican. Plus, our exclusive teachers survey. What do they really think about education in Connecticut? Our flashback, a lost promo of Denise DiCenzo from 1994. It's all this Sunday, February 23rd, 2020.
From Eyewitness News, Connecticut's most watched local political program, this is Face the State.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Dennis House. Thanks for joining us. It was an epic week at the state capitol as 2 years of talking about tolls came to a grinding halt. Tolls are dead for now. We'll talk with members of the House and Senate today, but first the House with Republican leader Themis Klarides and Democrat Roland Lamar. And Representatives, good to see you here on the program.
Thank you.
Good to see you. Representative Lamar, I want to begin with you because your governor, fellow Democrat, very dejected by the turn of events that he apparently can no longer push this trucks-only tolling through. What went wrong for your party?
Yeah, I think over the last few months, you've seen a commitment to solving a $19 to $20 billion transportation problem that we have, that Republicans and Democrats both agree on. On the Democratic side, we constructed over the last year and a half, 2 years, a tolling program, first considering out-of-state cars coming into the state under congestion tolling plan, then moving towards trucks only. We struggled over the last 6 months coming up with the support necessary to pass it. We thought we had it. We were working towards a vote next Thursday. Both the House and Senate committed to moving forward with that plan to get revenue to help us move forward on our transportation needs in our state. The Senate came back to both the governor and the House saying they needed more time. At that point, the governor, who put about a year and a half, 2 years into this, decided that he needed to move forward. And the Transportation Committee, we're committed to getting something done. We go back to work today trying to figure out how we make up for a shortfall that we see in our Special Transportation Fund and how we make the critical investments to get our state moving.
This is seen as a victory for Republicans and the opponents of tolling. Do you agree with that?
And this is a victory for the state of Connecticut. I mean, we just happened to take this position. Excuse me. The problem here is there's lack of trust in state government. So you've seen 6, 7, 8 toll proposals put forth in the past year. In fact, 1 year ago, the governor, when asked, Governor, why didn't you keep your campaign promise of trucks only? Excuse me. And he said, number one, I didn't know the financial problem was as bad as it is in the state, which is a ridiculous statement to make in the first place. But secondly, he said, if we do trucks only, we will not be able to make the substantial commitment and investment in transportation that we need to. And now a year later, that's the push. He's pushing and pushing and pushing. We do not need tolls in Connecticut. We all agree that we need a substantial investment in transportation. There's not been one but two plans that show how we can be fiscally responsible, how we can downsize government, how we can start paying off our pensions and fund transportation to the same tune the governor Democrats would like. The sooner we sit down and start having those conversations, the better off we are.
You know, Democrats seem to have the numbers to support their governor. Why not support him on this?
I think transportation has been a Republican and Democratic priority for a number of years. How we finance it always comes down to what the best approach is. We centered on a transportation plan with financing that would have out-of-state residents paying up to 40–50% of the total cost. Finally getting folks from New York, New Jersey, and beyond to pay for their fair share. We moved towards trucks only, looking at what the damage that they do to our roads and thinking that tractor-trailer trucks should pay more towards their fair share. We couldn't get consensus. Whether you're Republican or Democrat, those are tough issues, those are tough choices. If you have a D next to your name and R next to your name, having a tough choice doesn't mean you necessarily say yes.
This is an election year, and in the last couple of years, there have been some people who have campaigned against tolls, and they have been elected. Do you believe that some Democrats were skittish about perhaps losing re-election in the fall if they supported tolls?
There's no doubt that this became a political issue far beyond the Capitol. There was a pretty impressive, I believe in tolls. I strongly favor those options before us, but there's no questioning that the No Tolls group, No Tolls CT in Connecticut, generated substantial support on their own and made this a political topic far beyond what you traditionally see at the Capitol. I do think some folks concerned about their electoral prospects started to look at this issue more critically and started to feel uncomfortable with the current status and lack of commitment from the Senate to move forward.
Do you believe November played a big role in the way that some Democrats decided not to support tolls?
I think it did, but if you look at the way the numbers break down at the state capitol, there's a majority of Democrats in the House, the Senate, and the governor's office is held by a Democrat. They have no problem passing bills that increase taxes this year, that spent extra money in a world of a $3 billion deficit, that took money out of the special transportation fund, that very fund that we're trying to make sure is viable going forward. And they had never had a lot of concern about whether they had any Republican votes. And this vote was different. And it was different because people of the state have said enough. We don't want your hand stuck in our pocket one more time and nothing changing in the state. We don't want to pay one more dime. And there are alternatives on the table that can responsibly and fiscally fund transportation to the same tune the governor and Democrats are interested in without tolls. Tolls are a slippery slope. Nobody trusts state government to keep their word because they haven't in the past.
Do you believe it weakens the governor's effectiveness on other issues?
Listen, there are a lot of issues out there, and the governor has a difficult job. I recognize that. I hope that the governor has learned a lesson in regards to this, that he just had such tunnel vision in regards to the only way we can fund transportation is tolls. He said time after time, I'm willing to sit down and talk about any alternative, but unfortunately it became clear that he would talk about any alternative as long as it included tolls. And I hope he's learned that there are other ways to do this, and sitting there and barreling down saying this is going to be my way or no way has put us in this position when we could have done a very responsible transportation funding plan months ago.
Do you see it as a failure of leadership?
I do, frankly. I think we had the most equitable and forward-thinking plan available. Whether people like tolls or not, it was a way to balance costs amongst those who are using our roads who do not pay into the state coffers day in and day out basis. Whatever option we come up with next is going to disproportionately fall on Connecticut residents. A tolling option would have allowed folks from out of state to pay their fair share, just like I do and you do when we cross into New York, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and beyond.
In terms of failure of leadership on the governor's behalf, you think it was failure in his?
I think we have to all share the blame on that one. Whether it's House, Senate, or the governor's office, this was a policy proposal that was probably the smartest, most equitable way to finance transportation investments, and we didn't get it done. But I go back to work today.
In our closing moment, I want you to weigh in on an unrelated matter. 3 high school girls are suing the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference because they say that they are losing out to transgender athletes who are biologically male. Do you believe that that's a fair policy, that you should just be able to identify with whichever gender you identify with, and that's how you perform in these meets and so forth? Or do the girls have a point here?
I stand behind transgender athletes who are female in every way and are competing as...
But they're biological male.
They identify as female, and they are competing interscholastically in women's sports, and I support them in that choice.
What about you?
I support whatever anybody identifies as, and I've been very involved with those issues for many years, but the reality is there is different DNA, and men and women have different strength levels, different speed levels, and that has been proven. So I think this is something we really need to look a lot closer at.
Do you think the case should be dismissed, or the girls have a point?
I think the girls have a point, but I think it's a serious issue on both sides, and we really have to take a closer look at it.
Is there like something lawmakers can do about it, you think?
Well, I think we have to figure that out. I mean, we've been so consumed with tolls and everything else that's going on. But I mean, this is an issue. People have to make the decision. I absolutely decide. If you tell me tomorrow, Themis, I feel like a woman and I'm going to identify as a woman, I think that's wonderful. That's your decision. But the reality is you are male by DNA, and we have to figure out what our policy is as a state government for high school athletes.
Themis Klarides, Roland Lamar, we thank you for being on the program. When we come back, it'll be the Senate's turn to talk about tolls. Later, our exclusive teacher survey and a great old video clip of Denise that will really bring a smile to your face. Welcome your comments. And you can also watch past editions on our YouTube app or our YouTube channel.